everybody. Welcome to Crafts by Two. I'm Ken.
And I'm George. What? Do I got something on my face?
What are you doing?
We were crafting. I wanted to wear some of the stuff that we made.
Okay.
It looks cool. So you might remember in our haul video when we showed you these stamps. And we said we had a project in an upcoming video. This is that video. So with the introduction of the new Cricut Explore machine that can now print SVG files, I thought, I bet we could make our own cutouts for stamps. So with a little work, Ken and I came up with a way to do it. And this is what we produced.
So first is the Doodlebug set. So there's all the cute little Doodlebugs stamped and on their cutouts. We did white just to highlight the edges for the video and for some of our photos for now.
And this is the man stamps with all the mustaches and hats and ties, like what I am wearing.
And soon removing.
Yes. And then this is the gemstone
Insects.
Which
sounds really fancy and then kind of clinical.
Yes.
Gemstone insects.
So it takes a little bit of work to do, but it's kind of easy in the end once you get used to it.
Yep. You can pump through a whole bunch really quickly.
Yep.
So we made up some instructions. So from our site, we'll have a nice little PDF with all of our instructions, and we're going to talk in the video about making them, about some of the math, and we did all the math for you and put it right there in our sheet.
In addition to that, we have some nifty little cheat sheets for you that you'll be able to download from our website. So if you go to www.craftsby2.com, you'll be able to download these. And if you own these stamps, or if you should go out and buy them, you'll be able to print the cut. You'll be able to cut the files. I wasn't going
to correct you.
I was going to say print the cut files. It's the glasses. They're drawing my eyes in.
So the reference sheets include the collection and the product number. So you can go find those online or at your local craft store. So I'll now take it away with the video.
Yes, you could do the video.
I'm in Inkscape to show you how you can take a scanned image of one of your stamps and make that into a nice cut file to use in Cricut Design Space. On screen I've got an example, and you can see the red is going to be what we're going to create today, and that's going to be a nice cut where we can show our paper behind our stamp to highlight it and give it a little dimension in our project. If I drag off the original image, this red is what we're going to actually be creating and saving. So I'm going to start off with a clean slate and clear this out. I've already gone ahead and scanned in one of our images, and I did that at 300 dots per inch. And to follow our steps, you want to do that because we're working with 300 dots per inch to make sure we can scale everything properly to get everything actual size for our cuts. To bring our scan into Inkscape, you go to File and choose Import and select your image and open. Now it's asking if we want to link or embed the image into our file. That doesn't really matter for the work we're doing because we're going to be deleting that original before we're done. So I'm going to leave it on link and click OK. And here's our image, and it's rather large, so we need to scale that down to actual size. And I mentioned we did the math, so having scanned it at 300 dots per inch, I know I need to scale it down 30% because Inkscape works at 90 dots per inch. So to scale that down, I've got my image selected by clicking on it, and I can tell because it's outlined. And I go to Object and choose Transform. I go to the Scale tab, make sure I scale proportionately, so I only have to enter 1, and I'm going to make this 30%. and I press return on the keyboard and it updates both the height and the width, and I click apply. So I can close the transform panel and I've got my image now at actual size. Inkscape has a great feature called Trace Bitmap, which will let us take this bitmap and give us a nice vector image, which is the lines and curves of the shape, which is what we need for an SVG file to use as a cut file in Cricut Design Space. So to trace this bitmap, I need to click on it to select it, and be careful not to accidentally resize it or grab any of these arrows. If you do, you can go under the Edit menu and choose Undo to take that step back. So I've got my image selected, and to trace that bitmap, I go under Path and choose Trace Bitmap. Normally this preview is blank, but because I've done some work to give you that preview at the start, that's why this is filled in. You can always click Update while you're working in the Trace Bitmap window to get an update to how things are going to look. But first, some options. You want to go to the Options tab and make sure all three options are checked. Then back on Mode, we're working with a single scan because all we want is an outline. And the brightness cutoff is great for this work because it's a simple black and white image, which is going to help us find the outlines we need really easily. You'll notice there's some specks and it's not a perfect picture, but that really doesn't matter for the work we're doing here. So I'm going to hit OK, and it kind of flickered for a second, but it really didn't let me know anything's done, but it did the work, so I can close the Trace Bitmap window. So now if I drag this off, here on the right I've got our traced vector file, and on the left I have the original bitmap. And we don't need this bitmap anymore, so I clicked on it to select it, and I hit delete on the keyboard to get rid of it. What we've found working with these outlines is growing them by 4 steps is great for giving you enough of the paper to show it off and give it that little dimension, and it's not too big that your image becomes a blob, but it's still big enough that it's easy to get your stamp accurately on your cutout shape. So to grow this path, I need to make sure that I've got my image selected, and I go to the Path menu, and I'm going to choose Outset because I want to grow the outline of the image. And here it's nice to remember these keyboard shortcuts so I don't have to do the Path Outset 4 times. This way I can just do Control right parent, which actually ends up being Control 0. You don't have to do Control Shift 0. So for the first grow step, I'm going to choose Outset on the menu, and you can see it grew 1 step. And for the remaining steps, I'm going to use that keyboard shortcut of Control 0. So 2, 3, 4. So now I have the outline grown 4 steps, and in some cases you can see there's these little cutouts still in the image. Sometimes you might want to keep that for your stamp and your cut file that you're creating for the effect. This time I don't think I want to keep those for this image. To get rid of those, I can come over to the left and click on the Edit Paths by Nodes tool and select our image, and it shows me all the little nodes, those squares, and the curves that make up our image. So to get rid of a portion of it, I just click and drag over the tool, the points I want to get rid of, and hit delete on the keyboard. And sometimes things might be a little tight and you can't be confident that you're not going to get part of the image you want to keep. So you can always zoom in, and in Inkscape you just press the plus on the keyboard to zoom in. So I click plus a couple times so I can select those easily and delete them. Now if I switch over to the regular pointer, I have our nice cut file ready to go. But there's a few more things to do. So I'm going to go back to actual size by pressing 1 on the keyboard. And the important thing to do before we save this is to note down the size of our file, so when we're working in Cricut Design Space, we know exactly what size to make it so it cuts just the right size for our stamp. So to get that size in Inkscape, you want to click on the image to select it, and up top you can see that it shows you the width and height of the selection. Right now Inkscape is defaulting to pixels, and that's not helpful because Cricut Design Space works in inches or centimeters. So I click this pixels arrow and I can change it to inches. So now I can see that it's 1.629 by 1.875. So you want to note those down. For the cut file collections we've created for our stamps that we're sharing with you, we've included a PDF file that gives the silhouette of the image, a name, and the sizes all in one handy little table as a reference. So now I'm ready to save the file. I just go under File, and I'm doing Save As. And I was already working in here, so I've already got Flower Pot 2 in there, but you can give it any name you like. I'm saving it to my desktop so I know where it is. And Inkscape is going to default to an Inkscape SVG file. To make sure things are the most compatible, we're selecting plain SVG. That way we have a plain basic SVG file that any program that handles SVGs should handle just fine and not have to worry about any compatibility issues. So with everything set, I'm going to click Save. And now I've got an SVG file ready to go and import into Cricut Design Space. Here I am in Cricut Design Space, and I'm going to show you how to upload your SVG file as an image and place it into your design and make sure it's the right size. The first step is uploading the image, and you'll want to do it as a vector upload because we're working with an SVG file. So you'll browse, find your SVG, and there you go. You can give it a name and any tags, and then just click Save. I've already uploaded it, so I'm not going to save it this time. Once you've uploaded your image, it'll appear in your uploaded images. So I'm going to just click on my flower pot and insert it into my design. And remember, in Inkscape I had you note down the dimensions of our drawing to make sure that we could cut it at the right size. So while you've got your image selected in Design Space, you want to come over and click on Edit and enter your dimension. So this is going to scale it proportionately because the little lock is on, and I'm entering 1.627 and pressing return. And one thing you'll notice if you're paying attention is it should be 1.875 tall, but Cricut Design Space scales it just a little bit differently. We found that this really doesn't matter in our cuts, so just go ahead, leave it on the proportional scaling, punch in one dimension, and let Cricut Design Space scale it. So now we have our image placed and ready to cut.
By Jove, that's genius.
Why, thank you.
So as you can see, it's really easy to do, and actually a lot of fun in the long run.
Yeah, it's really simple. Once you get through the steps, you can just quickly step through a whole bunch of them.
A note that we didn't really talk about in the demonstration that you did is instead of stamping and scanning each individual stamp, I just took the acetate from the front that has the manufacturer printed stamps on it, and because they were the same size as the stamp, I just scanned those, and then went into a graphics program and took each one out individually and did what you did.
Okay. Or, instead of making separate files, what I did when I was doing a bunch of these, I just took them into Photoshop, or, as we mentioned, you can use the GIMP for free. You can just use a lasso tool to select the image you want to work with and copy and paste right into Inkscape. You don't have to use the import step, and that made it even quicker to do a whole bunch all at once.
So break out your old stamps and you can make your own cut files.
And give them new life and new dimension.
And that way you can share them with your friends. And maybe we can come up with something to allow our viewers to share their cut files with everyone for stamps.
Yeah.
Let's research that and maybe tell people next week or on our website about what we're going to do.
On next Tuesday.
Yeah, because it's 2 for Tuesday. No, it's not 2 for Tuesday.
I don't know what you're saying.
I don't know either.
So stop by our site, and we've already got these 3 collections with our little cheat sheets and our instructions all ready for you to download and use in Cricut Design Space. Or if you have another cutting system that uses SVG files, you can use the same steps and the same SVG files. So that's it for now. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye. I think the tape ate through my head.